interested in true crime ever since I was a kid, reading True Detective magazines, which some of you may not remember. I've always seen that the biggest victims in crime always appear to be women. That isn't saying that women are the only victim, but they seem to be the largest among victims. And I have loved the podcast I've listened to about true crime and wanted to participate in those podcasts as well. I did want to add a little bit of change to my podcast, and here's what it is. I'll have scenarios documented, and there'll be clues provided, and it will be up to you based on these clues to decide who the perpetrator is. This is based on serial killer history, and any true crime aficionado who loves to solve crimes may enjoy participating in this. But ultimately, the true reason would be to sharpen your deduction skills, because perpetrators are always sharpening their deduction skills to take on new victims. With that in mind, let's get started. One thing I'd like to add before we do get started is this is going to always be an adult content podcast. And for some adults, this may not be a good podcast for them to listen to either. If this is not the subject matter of your choice, please do not hesitate to skip this video or come back at a later time. Thank you, and let's get into it now. The game is afoot. Good evening, my Trues Clues aficionados. I am here to add an addendum, a footnote, additional information to an upcoming live podcast that I'm going to have. And we're going to talk a little bit about how people get into bad relationships and what you can look out for to keep yourself safe and out of a bad relationship. Keeping the Trues Clues true for you. And we just finished a podcast on men who murder their families, family annihilators, family perpetrators, scum of the earth, however you want to call them. The term is familicide. A clear relationship with economy. There is no clear relationship at this time. It is beyond the economy. It reaches all the economic stressors. There are certain things that will happen that will click in these relationships and make the perpetrators go overboard. It's probably numerous things going on. I imagine financial stressors, unhappiness in the relationship, maybe meeting somebody else new. In the last few that we've seen, that has definitely been going on. And that newness in the relationship can have you wanting to have it all the time. But logically, that newness and that first meeting kind of addiction doesn't last long. It's not meant to last long. You need to look for other things in a relationship. It doesn't have to be exciting or overboard all the time. Actually, a good, stable, maybe a little boring man is a lot to be said, especially when you're looking at a lifetime of being with somebody. But also, you have to watch out for those quiet ones. But in this instance, you want to watch out for somebody that's like too adoring to you, pays too much attention. If it sounds too good to be true, it is too good to be true. The National Death Reporting System for Homicide-Suicides, the perpetrator, mostly male and non-Hispanic, usually an intimate partner, kills intimate partners and children as well. The depression rate in those is about 11.80%. Higher education, unemployment could be a big problem, a big stressor. There was that list man who lost his job and would act like he was going to work every day, and then finally ended up annihilating his whole family. But then at the same time, went off and had another life, a new family when they found him all those years later. Let's see. Prior to The perpetrator mostly has access to a gun. Had it not been a gun in the home, there may have been time to have a conscious thought and to breathe and to get away from the anger that's so overcoming, making them see red. A stepchild in the home, poor mental health of a partner, prior violence, the number one factor, can identify these cases. Check for violence when you're doing a new date, or you've been dating somebody for a while. Just kind of check it out, see what the family members have to say. If you can get access to an ex, maybe find out where they have broken up. Of course, you don't want to do that if the relationship is new, but if things are starting to get serious, you definitely want to do a little more in-depth taking a look at things before you get involved with somebody. Somebody always presents themselves in their best light, always puts their best foot forward. We do too as women. But I think we are more gullible because we always present ourselves in a truer fashion. I mean, we may wear makeup, eyelashes, wigs, whatever, but I do believe the personality we usually project is a part of our real personality. And that's not to say that women can't be bad or just as horrible as men. They can. But this is the instance that we're talking about here, is a narcissistic male married to a family that he no longer wants. Let's see. Jealous drunks with guns is how one homicide detective referred to it. Gun use is 92% of murder-suicide. 7% with multi-partners. Impulse factors makes it more likely to use a gun even when used to threaten a person and not usually used to kill them the first few times. It builds up. They get braver. As they hit you, as they abuse you, things just get more out of hand because they get away with it and they become braver. So they may use the gun to terrorize the victim prior to killing the victim. 14 killers said that they would, 11 out of 14 killers said that they would not have killed the victim if they had a chance to get away from it and not have a gun, because the gun depersonalized the situation and made it easy for them to act. Black Americans are more likely to kill their partner and not themselves. Some chronic unemployment may play into this, a denial system, and lack of responsibility. However, you always have a choice. That's why people go to jail, because you always have a choice. You decide to kill or you decide not to, and to just get away from that person if they bother you that badly. They stalk under the guise of trying to get the victim back, and after a while they realize that's not going to happen, or maybe they'll see the victim dating and they just lose it. Predictors: fetal alcohol, abuse, graphic violence, animal abuse. Not in suicide homicides, though. Violence in the home. The opposite of suicide is homicide. Exposure to parental abuse and abuse, although closer to mom and acted like dad. Setting up to speak with them after the breakup is a horrible idea. Motive is a way to enact this behavior and to try to get away with it. So this is why I thought I wanted to have a little panel discussion with some friends of mine. I think most women have been in bad relationships. Some women have been in worse relationships than others, and some women have been killed. Others have been able to get away. Some are struggling to get away. So I hope that I provided women who are in different stages that we can talk to and find out what they're going through and how they feel about it. Back to the character of the narcissist. Rule breaking. Strives for a perfect world. Narcissists will break the rules themselves, but they don't want other people breaking the rules. They have a false image projection of themselves. They lack empathy. They're conversation hoggers. They have a great deal of self-importance for themselves. And these things are hard to hide. I mean, they'll have subterfuge, but if you really look at a person, these things are not easy to hide because they will go back to acting their own self eventually. And hopefully it won't be too late when they do. Rule breaking strives for perfection. A narcissist will often know how to turn on the charm when it suits them. They can be friendly, considerate, affectionate, and endearing. They know how to make you feel good, even special. And that is the danger. It's like being catfished on a universal level. Fuck. You just can't know these people and you can't trust them. But it's so hard to identify who they are. And they know how to make you laugh. It can be difficult for some to resist their charms. If that was not the case, we wouldn't have dead women all over the place, because we get subdued by this charm. That's what we're looking for, is a man who is dashing and is charming. Didn't they always say that? Prince Charming? What the fuck? Then once they have what they want, or they become bored, they can change without warning. They are no longer interested in you or their life. They become aloof and they show no real interest whatsoever. Instead, they turn their charm to whatever else or whoever else is interesting to them at that time. That is, until you have something that interests them again. Yeah. Or that until they just wipe their hands of you and want to obliterate you off the face of the earth like you never existed, you and your children. Manipulation. A narcissist will also have no concern about manipulating, even people they are close to. Spouses, siblings, parents, and even children can be manipulated for self-serving gains. The narcissist will also have no problem in turning people against each other, if doing so is in their own best interest. How fucked up is that? I mean, it's like a game of cat and mouse. It's like they're the Goliath of it all and we're just little players in his world. And he's going to get what he wants. Provided the narcissist will get what he wants, which if they don't, pretty much anything will go to get what they want. When it comes to manipulating other people's lives, desire for control, the narcissist will look to blame what they can do or who they can. And when things are not going well, they will lay blame on general causes such as laws and the government. They might also lay the blame on individuals such as colleagues, staff, and even loved ones. In fact, it's usually the loved ones. And I think anybody who's been around one of these people or who's had one in your family that you've had to live with knows how hellish it can be and how freaking miserable it can be. In fact, it is usually loved ones that take the brunt of the blame when things go wrong. And I think they start out maybe liking their wives, but then as they become unhappy or their life unravels in a fashion that they don't like, then it's easier to place the blame at somebody else's feet, because after all, they have this self-image projection and they're absolutely fucking perfect. They will gaslight you while abusing you. Entitlement. The other party will blame themselves for not being enough. And I think this is where we as women get caught up. Just like Shanann, so depressed and powerless and cannot change the outcome. Get stuff in a loop of trying to be perfect. I mean, they don't get stuff. They get stuck in a loop of trying to be perfect. The world sees a narcissist as perfect, not behind closed doors. Spouses can be hypervigilant, sleep, headaches, illness or worse, or more illness, and we already knew Shanann had illnesses. They try to appease the abuser by changing to accommodate the abuser instead of leaving. Internal dialogue gets all fucked up. This partner, my family, justification. And then we say, 'cause leaving is scary. Trauma bonded, which means you just fucking get used to being crapped on. Reasoning to yourself why you stay. The abuser will change their patterns. It's not your fault. No matter what changes around them, it's not going to ever be their fault. So with that, I'd like to get started with the panel discussion, and let's see what these girls have on their mind to say that could help the world move forward as a whole. And here we go, breaking down the truths, clues, clues. Hello, my Truths Clues audience. I hope you've been paying attention to the truths, clues that life has been presenting you and keeping yourself safe. Tonight, I have my friend Amanda here, and we're going to discuss a few topics on the subject of why women stay in bad relationships. Hello, Amanda. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good, Tammy. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm glad that you're here to discuss this subject with me tonight.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
I want to start off with my first question for you. And I just want to see your point of view on it, because as women, I figure we've at least one of us, one time, have been at least in one bad relationship, if not maybe more. My first question to you is, do you feel victims can struggle to see the severity of the abuse and the danger that they're in? I think that would be a good reference to the Gabby Petito case, because I don't think she had a clue of what she was in, or she wouldn't have been running back and jumped in that van when she had police assistance.
Right. I think the victim is blindsided to the abuser. I feel that when you are the victim of someone that's being abused, you don't want to see it for that.
I kind of wonder what culture has to play in it a little bit too, because I think that some people feel like a really strong abusive partner really taking control, they feel that that's really love, mistaking love for control and abuse.
Yes. It's like, they can't see the fact that this person is keeping them from working a day job or leaving the house or not going somewhere without them. However, the victim's friends can point it out multiple times. Until the victim is ready to open their eyes and see, I don't think that those situations are going to change.
In fact, I've even felt to points when you do talk to women about the possible abusive scenario that they can be in, it can be dangerous for you and your friendship with them.
Yes.
Because they will turn on you like a viper. And if you feel like, you're saying something bad about their man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this goes across a lot of financial boundaries. I think that it can happen to anybody. I know that on the male's part that it's financial stressors or something in their lives that make them unhappy and more violent. But women, why do they stay? I think that's a good point there. They don't realize they're in an abusive situation, and it happens so subtly. By the time you're caught, you're almost like a spider in a web.
Well, that, and at that point, they leave you with nothing. They leave you with false hope. They leave you not being able to care for kids if you have kids. They really take that away from you by not letting you drive or not letting you go places without them.
Definitely. It would definitely affect the quality of life for your children, too. How could you, when people are supposed to be working, be two people doing everything together outside of the job? That's just not fathomable. It's not real. Okay, so let's move on to the second question. The second question would be, the victim lacks family, community, and church support.
Oh, indeed. When you're the victim, you don't want to let anybody know, what really is going on.
I agree with that, and I think that social media has had a big fucking deal to do with that, too, because people are always trying to present themselves on social media as having such a really great life. Everything's beautiful here,
perfect.
Folks.
Picture perfect.
Exactly, like Shanann Watts.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another one. Oh, even Gabby, just portraying things. That can't be real, but everybody buys into that idea for some reason. And I think that there is support out there. It's just shame that keeps you from seeking that support. But
this is very true.
I think like rape, we just have to get to the point where we could admit what's going on.
and get over it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people get in bad relationships. Marriages break up. And we all have to recognize that not everybody's meant to be together.
Right.
And you just have to wake up, smell the coffee, and know when to leave. Because I think part of that is in staying too long, covering up too long, nurturing them too much, where they just take over your whole freaking life. Because that's what narcissists do. And then if you're like me, you marry a psychopathic narcissist, well, your shit's really shot to shit.
True. That was never fun.
Yeah, no, that's like living, in danger all the time. And number 3, leaving is the most dangerous time for a woman.
Well, of course, because of the backlash. It doesn't matter what side you're going to get it.
Nope. And it doesn't matter what you say to them. As soon as this person knows that you're not going to be their possession anymore, then they will turn on you with vehemence and anger.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, you're no good to them. You're nothing to them.
They don't need you no more.
They would rather see you dead at that
Mm-hmm.
point in time. That's exactly how I feel about it. I think it could happen to any woman across any lines. And what would you say when you're starting to date a guy? What would be the things that you would look for to say, hey, stop, slow down, slow this relationship down? Maybe it's falling in love too fast. It feels too good when you're from an abused background. If that happens, definitely stop what you're doing and think about it.
Right.
What would you have to say, Amanda? Think about how you felt when you fell in love with these controlling, narcissistic, abusive men.
I mean, it's just like one tumble after another tumble. Like, really, like, it rewires you completely.
And how do you think that makes you feel when you're out in the world by yourself? How do you feel like preparing to go out into the world without this person now?
So, for me, it was hard. I'm not going to sit there and lie because I was in the comfort of a home, like, at that point, but I had to start all over again. Like, it was a struggle not being able to just necessarily have things fall into place. Like, I lost a child because of it.
Yep. And the weird thing I know with Shanann and old fuckface Watts there, that he was the major money maker, but in a lot of these relationships, it's the women that are functioning at home and doing everything, plus being the majority breadwinners in these families, and these narcissists are perfectly happy to let the women do that.
Right, and it's definitely a culture.
It is a culture.
It's a culture that has created itself to be more present than what it was in, like, our parents' ages.
Mm-hmm. I think because back then there was an expectation, just like back in caveman days where women were supposed to be, take at home and take care of the kids, and men were supposed to get out there and kill animals. Now in the dad's time, it was like, okay, that we don't need you killing animals anymore, but we do need you to go out there and provide for your family. And within that, women became locked into extreme domestic violence situations as well, with no ability to be able to change that. No financial, nothing. I mean, you were stuck in the rest of your life. I mean, if you got into a bad one, what was the saying? You made your bed, now you lay in it. That was what happened if you picked the wrong one. And now, for whatever reason, men are okay because women have asserted their rights, so to speak, and it does have backlash. Anything has a backlash, but now they're like, okay, bitches, you want to talk about you can do it all? Let's do it all. You can fry bacon up in a pan and
right? Go make the phone call, text about the 3-hour meeting that's later.
Yep, wear high heels and have sex all night with me. Well, let's see it, bitch. Get up and do it. So I think that's part of the culture that's been created in this feministic society, instead of being more like people need to be equals or partners in a relationship. I know nobody functions 100% in a relationship in giving. Sometimes you got shit going on in your head, you can't. You give 60%. Other person continues to give. The thing I think with women is once we make a commitment, we stick to that like no fucking tomorrow. Once you marry us, they know this. They know this. All they have to do is marry us, and they can just do whatever the fuck they please. And I think that's just generally what it is. And if it means, staying at home and expecting you to work, that's what it is. Or if it's being a trophy wife and you have to look like arm candy every day on the day, it's the same thing. I don't know. I don't know what these housewives of New York City, Atlanta, Peach Farm shit, or wherever the fuck they are and they come from, they're doing. What the hell? The air of control that's exuded by most of these men is atrocious.
Yes.
And they set an example for these young women that are watching these movies.
They do.
And what is it? That Texas Comfort, Texas Gold, I live on the old side. These people are incredibly not real.
No. Not
and
anymore.
These, the dating shows that you see, I don't know. This I do really feel hits really close to home. It hits close to home for a lot of women. Leaving abuse is extremely difficult and costly. And with a narcissist, deadly. If there was any time that I had to really watch out for myself and worry about being killed, it was then. Or if there was an attempt, it was definitely then. Because then you become the biggest piece of shit on the world, and all bets are off.
Did you lose your identity?
No, I think that was part of it. Because when I started feeling like I was an appendage, an arm to a body, I started getting very bitchy-like. and then it was off to the races. The fights were just happening. And that happened both times. And so, I don't know where I come from. I did a lot of research after my divorce. I was pretty sure I wasn't going to fuck up like that again. I did all this trauma research, all this inner child fucking bullshit. And I believe in all of that. I still believe in it now. But as broken as I was, I guess, or as I am, or whatever the fuck it is, I have a sign on me that says victimology, or come to be victimized here, or whatever it is about me and my personality. That makes men identify that, or abusers identifying that in me. I can't quite identify it in myself, what that is. But it's something about me that they're able to identify. And considering the background that I come from, it's not entirely surprising. But I had done so much work, like for 2 years, trying to figure out how to pick a better man. And in doing so, much as I had been warned, I ran right into the arms of a killer. I mean, he was a psychopathic narcissist murderer and would gladly have liked to wipe me off the earth. Where the other one hated me enough to kill me at the end, he really didn't want to go to jail for it. This one, pretty sure he thought he could get away with it. Big fucking difference.
But that's also his other background playing into a factor.
Oh, yes. Oh, I do know.
He's trained that way.
I know that, but I also know that he committed a lot of war crimes at the same time, too. Mm-hmm. Not okay.
No.
Not okay.
No.
And I know mine is a little off the charts, but like I said, I had done so much work to try to avoid being in this situation. And, basically ran into the arms of danger because I thought, A, background checks had been done. B, I had talked to, ex-wife and stuff like that. I wasn't really hearing anything bad back. And I don't know what I could have done, but there has to be something more. And for you women out there, slow the fuck down. Slow your roll. Check your shit out. That's why they had long engagements back in the day. Even if you're in love with this guy, don't start living with him right away. Keep your energy and your power until you're sure. I don't know what else to say about it. What would you say, Amanda?
I would just say the exact same thing. Be very cautious nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know who somebody truly is.
I mean, there's so many of these situations where these men are married, pretending like they're not. Having, the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Or...
Cake and eat it too.
Like this Brandon fuckhead laundry guy, totally control this lady. They said because of her age, she was better or should have known better. No, that's not how it goes.
You could be any age.
It could happen to anybody at any time. It happens to movie stars. I'm sure it happens to presidents' wives too.
Mm-hmm.
We just haven't heard about it. It happens to every walk of life. And I guess the only thing I can say about that is definitely check out your men beforehand. How would you think they need to check them out, Amanda? What would you say? How to slow your roll?
I honestly would just say, just slow it down. Don't go quick. Like, you don't need to be swiping left. Like, don't swipe right, but take your time and really get to know what you really want out of the relationship.
I mean, and I don't think it matters if you meet somebody online or somebody in person. You know, everybody talks about online being more dangerous. Not if you started out correctly. Meet in a crowd, you know, don't allow yourself to become alone with these people right away.
Public.
You know, bad people are everywhere. So just tread with caution. And I guess we've covered everything we have to talk about tonight. And we'll be back to update you and let you know our thoughts and feelings in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, stay true to your trues clues. Thank you for stopping by, and see you next Monday.